Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into real cases through the lens of a trained investigator and former prosecutor turned judge.
If you are sensitive to expletives, anatomical descriptions, and accurate descriptions of crime scenes, this podcast may not be suitable for you.
Welcome, Patreons. I'm Charnell.
I'm Megan.
And here we are shaking our gree for another.
There. I feel like I was holding it wrong and nothing was happening. And then I just had to.
Well,
did you see what I did there?
There's a technique.
I switched my wrist rotation.
It's
Now
all
I
in
know.
the wrist. It
Well,
really is.
Maybe that's what I've been doing wrong.
You've got
A lot of kids.
4 kids.
A lot of
and
kids.
a strong marriage. I don't think you're doing anything wrong.
Well, I obviously wasn't doing that.
Nope. Well, that's a good point. No wonder why you don't know how to work your wrist. You've been putting it in other places.
I sure have.
Oh, God.
And until next week, keep it curious and keep listening. I'm leaving.
Oh, and that's all we had for you today, everyone. That's actually a lot funnier than what I'm really bringing us today.
All I think of every time we do Patreon only
Get with the
episodes.
program.
I lost it. All I think of is, on some of those podcast things on the Facebook that I watch, and people are always looking for new recommendations. And they'll be like, I want one with like minimal banter, whatever. Yeah. Every time I want to comment, not us.
Right, exactly. Stay away from Crime Curious.
You probably don't want to listen to us on Crime Curious.
And also, I don't trust you. If you don't want to hear our charming banter and you only want to hear gory details,
listen, I love hearing serious podcasts too, but I can watch the nightly news every night.
For sure.
It costs me $0.
Yep.
I just watch the nightly news and it's presented to me.
Yep.
Or Dateline.
In my podcasts, I'm looking for a little something extra.
I am.
And that's what we're bringing today,
Yeah.
a little something extra. So let me tell you how this started. Patreon Rachel had wrote us after one of our other bonus episodes, actually, about where we were talking about stepmama possibly murdering her stepchildren, but she was hanged. We don't really know.
There's the poisoning.
I think her name was Martha. I actually meant to look that up. But anyway, Rachel contacted us and said, I would really like to recommend the baby farming case Minnie Dean. And I've come across Minnie Dean before. I actually wondered if we had even covered her before. I think it's just that I've heard it on other podcasts because I couldn't find it in our archives. But I'm bringing you not only Minnie Dean, but another case. We're going to talk about what baby farming is. And we're going to talk about how daycare and childcare regulations, which is near and dear to my heart in the current job that I do, how it all came about and why. And which is interesting because I've been doing my particular position as someone who investigates daycares, for 8 years, and I've never considered how legally did we start regulating and making sure that kids were safe in childcare.
Yeah.
How did we develop childcare from babysitting to childcare? So, I'm bringing some of that
we've
today.
talked quite a bit about things like, how things got regulated for actually like removing kids, kind of the advent of CPS and even some foster care in there. But you're right. This is that different piece. It's the then regulating on top of it. And some people have strong feelings about the government regulating anything. Mm-hmm. So if that's how you feel, we're sorry, we're hurting your feelings. But we are talking about why some of these things are.
Well, I think once you
regulated
hear
and
this
licensed.
history, I think it'll all make sense as to why it's needed to regulate taking care of other people's children. Okay? Because it's not easy. It's not easy to take care of your own children.
Yeah.
But it is even harder to take care of other people's children. So we're gonna start with a series of baby farming scandals. All right. Now, baby farming was basically where foster mothers, for lack of a better term, and I'm not using foster mother in terms of like the social reform of foster care. We are talking just mothers that did not birth these babies. All right.
Okay.
they would accept a lump sum of money to care for a child. All right?
Babysitting.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I don't know.
love when you do that.
I don't know.
You haven't done it in a long time.
I know, and I don't know what happens to me when it does randomly come out, but agreed. Maybe I need to change the word yes to agreed. So what's happening though, Megan, is they're given this child. What is unclear to me is it's essentially women who had unplanned pregnancies. They're not married, so that's scandalous, right?
Right.
Perhaps have already had too many children of their own to financially care for, so they just slip some money to this other woman. It's my understanding that there's not an intention to eventually take these children back. And that's why I wanted to make that distinction where they use the term foster mother, but it's not like a temporary situation. It is, I am paying you to take my child and raise my child. And what we're discovering with these baby farming situations is that there are several people, many cases, who would take that child and within days kill that child. And no one is ever the wiser. And they just keep accepting money and taking the babies. And they're being told that their child is being, fostered. It's like when a beloved pet dies and you tell your youngest that it goes off to the farm.
They went to the farm. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So God, okay, women, so they're surrendering their babies at this point. They can't care for them.
Yep.
They
In
don't
exchange,
have
for money. I mean,
they're selling them.
They're selling. Yes.
They know they can't take care of the children though. And at this point in time, because there's no regulation, they're not just surrendering their children, they're selling them.
Yes.
They're selling their children.
Yes.
They don't have any intention of seeing them again because they've sold them and assuming somebody else is going to take care of them.
Correct.
But instead, these children were being killed.
Murdered. We have lots of cases of the children being drowned in tubs in their backyards, or where they were placed in an attic to wither away, or even where for example, if a mother wanted to call upon their child, say a couple of years later, then these baby farms would hire another child to pretend to be that child so that no one was ever the wiser. I mean, this is an elaborate scheme, right?
I feel like I'm watching a horror movie.
Mm-hmm. I've brought that to you twice today. You said that in the other
I
episode,
know.
too, that it could have been a horror movie. Yeah, I know. I'm bringing the horror. The horror. Sorry, I really need to be weary of
grinning. Just
how
smiling.
I speak into this microphone.
That's right. Bring the horse, Charnell.
Oh, gosh. Wouldn't be the first time. So what happens is this led to the emergence of the first act of Parliament concerned with the prevention of cruelty to children, or the Children's Charter of 1889.
Oh, so we're in the UK?
Yes, this is
London.
where it starts. London.
London.
Yeah. I wish everyone could see your face when you said that.
Thank you. That's why we don't video.
So the children...
I look like shit. It's a Tuesday, and I need to get my hair done, Charnell.
You're fine. You're fine. Nobody cares what we look like on radio.
That's why it's my favorite medium.
Also, if everyone could just pretend like we are glorious goddesses on the other end of this microphone in your ear hole, that'd be fabulous. So the Children Act required the registration of foster carers following a 1908 act. It did take them nearly 20 years from the start of saying we need this to happen to when we actually started to get a Children's Act.
Takes a long time to get foster care placements.
Sure does. It sure does.
It took us 20 years to find people willing to register themselves to take children.
Right. Yes. So
it remains.
Obviously, what was I trying to say? Sorry, my eyes just skipped over some sentences.
You were talking about the 20-year gap between recommendation and legislation.
Yep. Now let's talk about some of the issues here. Being a single mother, never easy. In the days before state benefits, life could be very tough. Women relied on their families and friends, church or community groups to help them financially, or to care for the children while they went to work. Public disapproval was strong. Society expected children to be born within marriage and raised by two parents.
Right.
And some women couldn't cope. Several cases of child murder or infanticide.
Fanticide. I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
I got you.
Hit the headlines in the late 19th century as women left their newborns to die or disposed of babies at birth.
Yes.
Court cases revealed that desperate lives that some women led and the lack of options that they faced resulted in these child deaths. Paid childcare also came under scrutiny. The activities of a few caregivers shocked the nation. These so-called baby farmers allegedly neglected children in their care, concealed their deaths, or deliberately murdered the infants. The most notorious was Minnie Dean, also known as the Winton baby farmer, who in 1895 became the first and only woman to be hanged for murder in New Zealand.
Okay, I'm like, our other lady was murdered, was hanged. Sorry, allegedly had murdered, but she was not in New Zealand. She was Australia though, wasn't she?
She was Australia. Yep. So I can see why this triggered our Patreon Rachel to be like, this sounds like Minnie Dean. Yep,
for sure.
Exactly. So before organized daycare centers, single mothers and some married women too paid other people to look after their children. This could be a temporary arrangement while a woman was at work, or it could end up being a permanent arrangement as women simply paid others to take their children off their hand, a form of unofficial adoption. The practice came under intense public scrutiny in the late 19th century. High-profile British and Australian court cases in the 1800s, notice it mentioned Australia. It was part of our other gal in last month's bonus.
Yes.
Introduced New Zealanders to the sinister practice of baby farmers. Paid caregivers who neglected children in their care, concealed their deaths, or deliberately murdered the infants. New Zealand newspapers soon reported suspected cases of baby farming. There was usually more smoke than fire, which doesn't surprise me because a lot of the allegations that I receive for like unlicensed daycare providers oftentimes are a lot more smoke than an actual, unlicensed childcare happening. In 1889, a police survey in Christchurch revealed more honest caregivers than baby farmers. But interest was aroused enough, though, and New Zealanders began to discover that there were more baby farmers in their midst. Midst.
M-I-D-S-T.
Yes.
We got it. We'll just spell it for you.
Not mints.
In their midst.
Oh, gosh.
Midst. It's very hard to say.
I don't know why my tongue is so tied today.
It's nice. Your teeth have to come together for that word.
Yeah. I have no hesitation in saying that the evil of baby farming exists in this colony to a large extent, reported Arthur Hume, the commissioner of police in 1893. He claimed to know of 20 baby farms in Christchurch alone. So, in an attempt to stomp out this fear of the slaughtered innocents, the state regulated the system of paid childcare. Under the Infant Life Protection Act, passed in 1893, all homes that received payment for looking after infants under the age of 2 for more than 3 consecutive days had to be licensed as a foster home and were subject to police inspection. So not licensing inspection, police inspection. 3 years later, the system was tightened further in response to one of the most dramatic criminal trials in New Zealand history, and that is Minnie Dean that I'm going to tell you about right now.
Okay.
So Minnie Dean was born. I don't know why this was reminding me of Jimmy Dean.
Because it's sausage.
I know. I just keep picturing. It's actually making me hungry, and it's stupid.
I'm starving.
Me too. This is what happens when we record after work.
If it happens again, I'm bringing food. I'm serious.
Pizza.
That's fine.
So Minnie Dean was born. All right. Wilhelmina.
I don't
know.
W-I-L-H-E.
No. It's William Ina.
William Ina.
The name William like a man.
Not Wilhelmina.
With I-N-A at the end. Yep.
Weird. William Ina.
Yeah. I, for once,
Mom and Dad wanted a boy.
Right on the first try. And I got to sing about it, apparently.
And yeah, she held her hand up Rocky style. Like she just climbed all the steps.
Listen.
She knew she was going to lose, but still.
We know how hard weird names and places are for Charnell. There have been reviews about it, people.
My favorites.
I know. Williamina McCullough on September 2nd. So that's what Minnie Dean was born on September 2nd, 1844. She was born in West Greenock in Scotland, the fourth in a family of 8 girls. Wow. Her mother was Elizabeth Swan, which sounds regal. And her
well, it was the name of from Pirates of the Caribbean of the love interest of
oh,
Orlando
that's
Bloom.
why I like it. You're right.
I'm full of useless information, remember?
That's why I was actually picturing a curly-haired, beautiful.
You got it.
Yeah, even though they were born in Scotland, she's probably redhead.
Probably.
So her dad, Minnie Dean's dad, was John McCullough, an engine driver with the Glasgow, Paisley, and Greenock Railway.
Okay.
So now, let's see. Her mom died of cancer in 1857. And her arrival in New Zealand from Scotland, we do not know. We don't know at what age, when she arrived with her family, not sure. We do know in 1860s, though, she suddenly appears in Invercargill.
That's great. Great
Yeah.
job. That's probably wrong, but it's okay. Anybody
Can
from
I
Ireland
say it
or
with
Scotland?
an accent? You know,
Yes, please do. Give us an Irish accent or a Scottish accent.
Invercargill?
You've just made it better.
Nailed it. Yeah.
For all of you former Scottish listeners, thank you for your patronage.
Thank you. It's been really nice. So, in 1860s, Jimmy Dean, not Jimmy Dean. My
See?
God.
We knew
Now
Minnie.
I'm saying Jimmy Dean.
Minnie Dean.
Yeah, Minnie Dean's father passed away, so
Okay.
her mother is now a widow, and her neighbors kind of believed that she had come from Tasmania, where she had told people that her husband had died. But we have no evidence of that, so I'm not sure. So I get the impression that Minnie Dean's mother's kind of upbringing. So she's got 2 daughters with this John fella. He supposedly was a doctor, and he supposedly died in possibly Tasmania. We're not sure.
It's feeling very sketch to me.
Yeah.
And we also know that during that time frame, if people were leaving England, Scotland, Ireland to head to New Zealand, Australia, Tasmania, it probably wasn't for good reasons.
Right.
Military perhaps, but mostly because y'all were naughty down there under.
Yes. So here we have, we're not really sure. There was a lot of sketchy things about Minnie Dean's past, but we do know that on June 19th, 1872, Williamina McCullough married Charles Dean. And I still don't know how she became Minnie, but that's how she became a Dean.
Williamina. It's the end part.
Williamina.
They turned her into Minnie from
just
Mina.
like, we can't shorten this without calling you William.
Could have called her Mina.
Willie. Could have called her Willie.
Willie's a great name.
Willie Dean.
Yeah. Well, Willie was the name of the heroine in Indiana Jones and the Romancing the Stone. No, not Romancing the Stone. Jesus Christ, that's the wrong. I'm not drinking.
You're killing me. You've had 3/4 of a water. Have another, Megan.
Remember the water that makes you feel drunk, but you're not?
Oh, yeah.
I have some of that again.
I have some in the fridge, actually.
No, I'm good. Mm-hmm. I'm good.
All right. So here she is. She is married to Charles Dean. Now, Charles Dean was an innkeeper, and he was formerly of Tasmania. All right. And so they lived in Southland during the 1860s, and he actually flourished as a wagon, the town that they lived in flourished as a wagon stop on basically like there's a common journey from Riverton to central Otago goldfields. And so their little town was hopping because they were a central stop during this like gold rush. All right. And this is when Charles Dean turns to farming. All right. In 1882, his rabbit-infested 300 acres on which he ran 150 sheep were valued at 1,200 lire.
I don't know what lire.
Me neither, and I don't know.
Translate to.
I have no idea, but I'm guessing that it was impressive.
Okay.
Because it is 1884. However, in 1884, the land boom collapsed and Charles Dean went bankrupt.
Okay.
He was discharged 6 months later by then the Deans were destitute. So enter how we kind of get desperate into the baby farming community.
Yes, we have currently been farming sheep and rabbits. Maybe the rabbits were unintentional. Things have not gone well, and so Williamina is going to pick up a new type of farming.
I think so, because truly, by now, she's got 2 daughters, and by the time they go bankrupt, her daughters had married and left the home, so they were probably 14. I mean, given the time.
That is accurate.
Right. Because I know you're
accurate.
like, oh, hey, how did we skip to adult children? Well, I'm not certain they were adult by today's standards.
Correct.
So by 1880, the childless Deans had adopted a 5-year-old girl, Margaret Cameron. Now, we have records of that. About 1887, Minnie, Charles, and Margaret moved to Winton, where they took possession of a 2-storied 7 or 8-bedroom house on 22 acres, a mile out of town, that had been abandoned on the mortgage by the mortgagee 2 years earlier. So basically, they squatted.
Yes,
and they could at this time. Weirdly, though, the house burned down soon after they moved in, and so Charles built them just a 2-room cottage with a lean-to, where he began raising pigs, and his wife began taking in unwanted babies for payment. So they had this big place. It burnt down, but they're still going to squat on the land and build themselves a cottage. The practice of baby farming, as it was known, was a necessary evil in Western countries at this time. Effective contraception was not widely available. Abortions were dangerous. Unmarried mothers were ostracized, and little provision was made for the care of their offspring. Many desperate women relied on women like Minnie Dean's discreet newspaper advertisements to be able to be found.
Sure.
These advertisements would say things like respectable married woman, comfortable home in the country, wants to adopt an infant. And then it would give the address. It would say childless, and it would say the times that, they were in office, basically. A legal agreement was signed for most of the babies that she took in, but some were taken for just 8 to 5, like work. Okay. I don't mean they made the kids work. I mean, she did kind of start a daycare in the sense of not all of them were adoptions.
I see.
Some of them were just childcare while the parents
Some people contacted her
worked.
and just said, can I just pay you to babysit?
Yep, exactly. But others were adopted for lump sum of between 10 and 30 lire.
Okay.
So, I don't know. The New Zealand infant mortality rate at this time for children of European descent had been estimated between 80 and 100 for every 1,000 live births, with up to 9 children under the age of 3 living at this home at any one time. There would be some more deaths, whether through accident, illness, neglect, or maltreatment, was perhaps inevitable. And what I mean by that is basically children were considered critical, what's the word I'm looking for? I have blanked on words. They were considered fragile and in poor health. And so, when sometimes accidents happen, sometimes illnesses happen, and so that's to be expected. Okay? Like it was more readily accepted because that's to be expected. Now, in October 1889, a 6-month-old baby died of convulsions after a 3-day illness. Okay. All right. Illness, 6 months old. In March, and this is all in Minnie Dean's care. In March 1891, a 6-week-old infant died of inflammation of the heart valves and congestion of the lungs. The medical witnesses at the inquest, when they did the autopsy, reported that the dead infant and the other children at Minnie Dean's place were well cared for and well nourished, but that the premises, so the home, was inadequate. So perhaps that is how disease is being spread. All right. The coroner exonerated Minnie Dean, but advised her to reduce the number of children living at the home and improve the conditions. Clean your shit up, Minnie Dean, and have less kids.
They recognize, that there needs to be. How much were they paying, the people paying just for the child care? Not the adoption stuff, but the child care.
It said between 5 and 10 lakhs. I'm sorry, 5 and 8 lakhs for that.
See, it
I don't
keeps
know.
changing monetary amounts on me. So I did look up just the lire.
I meant lire. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's okay.
I was looking at the word.
That's fine.
At the word lock.
So lire, if this is accurate and it's kind of close what it is now to the U.S. dollar, which is really hard then, it could have been close to $900.
Wow. For a lump sum?
In that time, yeah. So it would have been very similar
That's
to today, giving somebody $900,000 for a baby.
So what's she doing with this money if her house is still shit?
I don't know.
I have no reports that they're snorting it off of hookers' asses.
Right.
So I don't have a clue what she is spending. Of course, it costs money to feed these kids too.
And money to live. I mean, they're just putting a way to live on.
Yeah.
Are they trying to keep their land? Are they they're trying to pay money to keep their land so it doesn't get taken by the bank? Are they? Yeah.
Right. Well, it was abandoned by the last mortgagee, so I don't know if then the bank in this time, if the bank would come to them and say, okay, now you've got to pay the rest of this, or, not sure. I don't know how that works. But apart from reducing just a couple of kids in her care.
Yeah, so get rid of a few kids and try cleaning.
Yes. And so she's like, okay, 2 kids can go. I mean, the reduction was very small.
Did she kill them?
But she continued as before. Yes, we can confidently say that, yes, that is how she got rid of them.
Okay.
So the inquest provoked community outrage, which was inflamed by another death 6 weeks later. In the public imagination, Minnie Dean became linked to baby farmers that were happening in Britain and Australia who'd been convicted of murdering infants for financial gain. No more deaths were reported, but rumors abounded of children mysteriously disappearing. Minnie Dean became increasingly under scrutiny. Most of her dealings with parents were carried on under assumed names, and when a baby boy died in her care in 1894, according to her own account, the child drowned by accident. She buried him in the garden to avoid the scandal of another inquest. The police were deeply suspicious. They kept her under surveillance, but their investigations were frustrated by inadequate child welfare laws. They had no right to enter or inspect Minnie Dean's property, and Minnie was not required to keep records or answer any questions. In August 1893, the proprietor of the Christchurch boarding house called the police when he noted that a woman, later identified as Minnie Dean, had acquired a 3-week-old baby during her stay. The detective Minnie Dean traveled and stayed at the Christchurch boarding house, and this church noticed that she had received a 3-week-old baby during her stay. And the detective had no hesitation in removing the baby with saying, quote, I believe this woman would have killed or abandoned this child before she got back home if I had not taken it from her. Mm-hmm. So this is really what gets Minnie Dean. On May 2nd, 1895, Minnie was seen boarding a train carrying a young baby and a hat box, and disembarking later carrying only the hat box.
Oh, God.
Now, Jane Hornsby, who was found to have handed over her 1-month-old granddaughter, Eva, to Minnie Dean at the Clarendon station, was taken by the police to Minnie Dean's house. There she found clothing belonging to the missing child, the child that she had given to Minnie Dean and is now nowhere to be found. Now, at this point in time, Minnie Dean was arrested and charged with infanticide. Right?
Infanticide.
It just doesn't, it's another word I don't like in my mouth.
I know, you shouldn't. No one should. It's terrible. It's awful. I'm queasy over here.
I know. It could also be because you're hungry. After a fruitless search along the railway line, the police turned over Minnie Dean's garden. So they went digging, guys. They unearthed the freshly buried bodies of 2 babies and the skeleton of a boy thought to be about 4 years of age. Now, that's how we found out that boy had drowned, reportedly on accident, and she had buried him in her backyard to avoid an inquest. At the inquest of the older boy, a 1-year-old girl, later identified as Dorothy Edith Carter, was found to have died from an overdose of an opioid that was commonly used to soothe crying children.
Yes.
of the time.
This is why we don't use...
Laudanum, I believe.
It is laudanum. Yeah, this is why we don't use opiates and alcohol to soothe children.
No, exactly. So stop it, everybody.
Please.
The younger baby, Eva Hornsby, was thought to have died of asphyxiation. The cause of death of the third child was not established. Minnie Dean was publicly branded a murderer by the coroner, and the community was immediately against her, and it ran, their emotions ran high. Charles Dean was also arrested, but at a lower court hearing, the charges against him were dismissed. Sounds very similar, doesn't it?
Sure does.
The Supreme Court trial of Minnie Dean for the murder of Dorothy Edith Carter began in Invercargill on June 18th, 1895, and a succession of witnesses described how she had collected Dorothy on April 30th at what was called the Bluff and had returned to Winton, where she lived, 2 nights later, before leaving again with the child and an empty hat box. So, by the time she collected Eva Hornsby at Clarendon, Dorothy had disappeared and Minnie Dean's hat box had become suspiciously heavy. When she returned to Winton, she had with her only a heavy hat box and some parcels. Under cross-examination, the woman who had handed Dorothy over revealed that although the financial agreement had been made, Minnie Dean had received no money for the child.
Really?
Yeah. I found that interesting. So she's just enjoying murdering kids. So basically what's happening here, guys, is that they have multiple witnesses at this hearing saying, we keep seeing her with a baby in a hat box, and then all of a sudden we just see her with the hat box, and the hat box is too heavy to just have a hat in it.
And now you know that no money was exchanged in this case.
Yes.
So this is awful.
Mm-hmm.
It was awful before.
But just a serial killer now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So, in an impassioned closing address, the defense, A.C. Hanlon, argued that the death of Dorothy Carter was accidental, but in his summing up, the judge observed, quote, "It seems to me that the real honest issue is whether the accused is guilty of intentionally killing the child or is innocent altogether." Right. I mean, isn't that essentially what all
it essentially
hearings are about?
You're either going to find her guilty or not guilty, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Good luck.
Right. She's either guilty of intentionally killing this child or she's innocent altogether. There is no in between,
I will
is
tell
what he's
you
trying to say.
that particular quote has never made any type of best closing arguments ever type of list, just so you know.
Nope.
They didn't teach us that in litigation school.
He said that a verdict of manslaughter would be a weak-kneed compromise.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So on June 21st.
That's what they want.
It is. It absolutely
Prosecution's
is.
like,
Because then she's not going to hang.
Prosecution's like, no. Do not do that. She's a murderer.
On June 21st, 1895, Minnie Dean was found guilty of murder and sentenced to death. Her attorney, Hanlon, did appeal on the grounds of the inadmissibility of evidence of other infant deaths, which was unsuccessful. That appeal was unsuccessful. They brought up the other infant deaths in this trial that was just specifically for Dorothy Carter.
Yeah, they used to be. And a lot of laws were passed. I mean, a lot of things are based off of case law and common law, and those are cases where we get to how we are now with rules of evidence. But you do have to make motions now for other bad acts, prior acts, motions. So, like, if someone were to have this come to trial now, it would still come in, by the way, but there would have to be a motion made regarding same. So it's interesting that came up as an objection.
It did.
Even before it was
a thing
in law, really.
And it was, I mean, it didn't work. The appeal didn't work. But on August 12th,
sometimes people used common sense, even then.
Oh, I don't think of that when I think of 1800s.
Well, it's something that we actually lack sometimes now also.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I should say I don't think of that when I think of 2023 either.
Right.
On August 12th, 1895, 3 months after her arrest, Minnie Dean was hanged at the gallows. And she is buried in the Winton Cemetery alongside her husband, who actually died in a house fire in 1908 at age 73.
Wow.
I know. She never took the witness stand at her trial, but while awaiting the execution, she wrote a 49-page account of her activities. She stated that in addition to Margaret Cameron and Esther Wallace, a 10-year-old girl from whom the Deans had adopted in 1890, 26 children, including Eva Hornsby and Dorothy Carter, had passed through her hands between 1889 and 1895. We're talking a period of 6 years. 6 are known to have died and 1 to have been reclaimed by his family. There were 5 healthy, well-cared-for children living at the time in her home at the time of her arrest. The fate of the others is unknown. Minnie Dean claimed that 7 children were adopted by families who she wished to keep the adoptions secret.
Yeah.
No,
I don't
they
think
were
so.
killed. The police and the public believe that the missing children were murdered. The possibility that some may have been secretly disposed of after dying of illness or accident was not considered at the time. Some of it might have truly been illness. I mean, when you just consider,
This is that time frame.
and
yeah.
especially knowing that she had investigations on her because of poor home conditions and whatnot. So maybe some of them could have been, but she still would have illegally disposed of their bodies to try to cover up another inquest, right?
She went and picked up a baby, a 1-month-old infant, just to kill it.
Yeah. That's
it. That's what's sticking in my head.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if that isn't evidence of how you've treated other children, I don't know what is.
For sure. I agree. The police and the public believed that the missing... Oh, I'm sorry. I just read the same thing over again.
It's worth repeating.
In response to the public concern aroused by her activities and trial, the Infant Protection Act of 1893 was revised and strengthened in 1896. Now, Minnie Dean became the only woman to be hanged for murder in New Zealand. Many convicted murderers have passed from notoriety to obscurity since then, but her name lives on, and around that name has grown a legend. Southland children who misbehave are threatened, not with the boogeyman, but with being sent to Minnie Dean.
Yes.
Yes, so there is a wildflower in Southland known as Minnie Dean, which, it is said, should be torn out and burnt if it appears in any domestic garden. It's claimed that nothing will grow on Minnie Dean's actual unmarked grave. Whether the real Minnie Dean deserves her terrible place in New Zealand's folklore is really far from certain because we have a lot of missing information. But I think we know she at least on one occasion picked up an infant, exchanged no money for it, and that infant was found buried in her backyard.
Right.
So I don't...
And
with
2
all
other
the other
children,
bodies,
and 2
yeah.
other children were found in the backyard as well.
I don't think that's all illness. Or, as she said, one was an accidental drowning.
I think that when you don't report accidents, they almost are sometimes no longer accidents, especially the way that she did that. I mean,
Right.
Did they say that the 4-year-old, was the 4-year-old asphyxiation, or did they not have a cause of death on the 4-year-old?
That's the one that she said drowned.
I know.
They did not have a cause of death. It was the other baby that they said was asphyxiation.
Oh, yeah. And to me, that's, you know what asphyxiation is on a infant, right? And they didn't know positional asphyxiation at that point in time. So they're talking suffocation asphyxiation.
Right. Exactly.
You can tell if somebody, even back then, I'm almost positive posthumously, you could tell if somebody drowned.
Oh, yeah.
So
we've had cases like that.
yeah,
So I know
4-year-old,
that they can.
I think they would have known that.
Now, I have some more interesting information about Minnie Dean, though, because
Okay.
we're not done here.
Oh, good.
A woman named Helen Henderson was brought up in Invercargill.
Invercargill?
Invercargill, yeah. Invercargill, yeah. So anyway, she was raised there. And she said, quote, Minnie was like the boogeyman of our town when I was a kid. She says, if you were given cheek to your mum or being naughty, it was like, you better watch out or I'll send you off to Minnie Dean's farm and you'll never be heard of again.
Like Baba Yaga
Yeah.
used to eat the children.
Yes. So she wrote a song about Minnie Dean.
She did not.
Yes, she did.
There's a song?
And there's a produced music video. Y'all, I just want to play a little snippet. You
are not. I'm so happy right now.
We don't own the rights to this music. And I hope that y'all actually, if I pull it up on my phone and I connect my phone. All right, let's turn on the Bluetooth. We're going to pair it here. This is all live right here, guys. Just type in your Google if you want to watch the video, the Minnie Dean let's see, baby farming song. Mm-hmm.
This cannot be true.
Oh, it's
Somebody
real.
did a song.
It's real. Let's play just a little. Let's play. It's moving. And there's a music video, so y'all should watch it. But I will link it for you when I post this
A
episode.
student recently came to me and asked, why is it that so many players struggle?
Hold on. We're going to turn off. Now I can skip ads. Here we go. Here we go, guys. She's walking on a railway.
Oh,
yeah, with a hat box. Just so you know.
It's creepy.
You hear the train?
She dressed in black and she carried a hat in a hat box when early to the station she came. And on her way back she'd always wear the hat in the cargo to Winton on the 5 o'clock train.
Because we know what was in the hat box.
Right. She's wearing the hat box, right? You're wearing
The hat that was in the hat box.
box.
I can't believe someone did a song. And legit, you guys, there's a fucking video. Like, seriously, it's creepy.
Oh, yeah. I will.
Okay.
I will
We
link
make
it.
songs about anything on Earth now.
We sure do. So that's the link in the email that came when it announced this this episode. So yeah, if you want to watch it,
Is it
y'all,
weird, or
it's
do you
right
feel
there.
like that would be a Phoebe Buffay song from Friends if someone were
Exactly.
to have told her about the story?
Yes, I 100% thought of Phoebe Buffay.
Oh, I went to my friends. Sorry.
Yes. Nope. I'm with you there. Okay. So that is the story there of Minnie Dean. Hold on though. I have more, and I've lost sight of my notes. I want to tell you about another couple.
A couple.
Okay. More than
because I'm familiar with there's a famous one. I wondered if you were going to get to.
Well, more than I don't know. I wrote in my notes, but wait, there's more.
I know so much baby farming stuff comes up because I had looked it up after the last one that you talked to us about, and certain people came up very specifically. Serial killers, people linked to other things.
More than a quarter of a century after the hanging of Minnie Dean, the murder trial of Daniel and Martha Cooper in 1923 revealed that baby farming and illegal abortion and adoption were still regarded as solutions to the problem of unwanted children. Daniel Richard Cooper was born 1881, the son of Jessie Elizabeth and husband George James Cooper, a farmer. Little is known of his childhood. He learnt the building trade in his youth and traveled around New Zealand. He also ran into trouble being convicted on theft charges in 1902 and in 1905. His family moved the farm to in the early 1900s, okay? And in 1907, he married Marion Burns, a neighbor whose parents whose parents' house Daniel had actually helped build. And the two had 2 daughters. I found that interesting too. Minnie Dean had 2 daughters. They have 2 daughters. The couple ran a store for a short time before moving to New Plymouth, where Daniel became a book agent and joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They shifted to Gore about 1916. That's a place they moved.
Okay.
And Daniel traveled the region canvassing a book called A Practical Guide to Good Health. He also invented an inhalers for asthmatics.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Right.
So some good things.
Some
were
good
happening
things.
there.
He invented the inhaler, guys, which he patented in conjunction with the local chemist and, just kind of toured around the country.
Yeah, let's see what we can
Spreading
shove.
good
Let's see what we
health.
can shove in this inhaler to have people suck into their lungs.
Yep. So
Menthol.
Marion died in Gore, July 18th, 1917. She was 8 months pregnant. And the coroner's report stated that the cause of death was pericarditis. But investigations by the police in early 1923 threw some doubt on this verdict. Questioning the neighbors and her family revealed that the marriage had not been happy, that there had been considerable local suspicion at the time of Marion's death, and that she had shown no signs of ill health. The discovery of love letters from Daniel to another woman, Martha Stewart.
No way.
This is why I had to throw
That's
this
so
in here.
funny.
Yep. Dated from 8 days after Marion's death, added to the circumstantial evidence that he may have poisoned his wife using iodine that he claimed he purchased for treating her gout.
Oh, well.
Okay.
My husband has the gout. Should I get out the iodine?
Mm-hmm. Martha Elizabeth Stewart was born in Gore on December 20th, 1893. She was the daughter of Irish parents, Annie McKinney, and her husband, David Stewart, a farmer. She grew up in Gore and seems to have met Daniel Cooper a few months before Marion's untimely death, when he called on the family selling his medical book.
Wow.
Daniel and Martha were married in Invercargill on January 2nd, 1918.
This comes up so
a lot.
much.
It's all in this area.
It's a county, must be.
Yeah. A little town, or town now. I don't know.
In
I'm
New
getting
Zealand.
better at saying it, though, I feel. Or I'm just convincing myself that I am.
Well, we don't have, they might not, maybe they don't have counties. Maybe it's a parish or
Right.
a township or whatever they want to
Something.
call it there. Yeah.
It's a place somewhere in the world. And
New Zealand.
just so you know. So they moved to Dunedin, where they established a health specialist business. Before long, Daniel had a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old girl who was staying with the couple after receiving treatment for an abscess on her thigh. Because nothing is sexier than an abscess.
Jesus.
No,
Here, I have
he
a-
didn't have anything
Here,
to do
I have
with
a
this.
treatment for that. Spread your legs. This guy sucks.
Awful.
I hate this.
Daniel.
Well, people posing or pretending to be or are medical professionals wandering around then taking advantage of people, patients, babies, children.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church,
They didn't like this, right?
well, they were concerned about rumors that Daniel was an abortionist. That's what they cared about.
Sure.
Then they heard of the affair, and they decided, you know what? Enough is enough. And they actually disfellowshipped him from the church.
Okay.
In 1919, the Coopers, with Daniel's daughters, moved to Wellington, initially living with one of his brothers while building a house in Island Bay. Daniel seemed to have done carpentry work and a couple, some more of their little health business and stuff, as well as specializing in ointments, hair restorers, face creams, and the diagnosis, I loved this, and the diagnosis of complaints in women.
Okay.
Yep, he's got an ointment for that.
He
Your
does.
Your bitch complaining, I got an ointment for that.
Yeah.
And it's not
And if it's your
chloroform.
15-year-old daughter, it's probably my pecker.
Right.
Because I'm a child molester.
'cause I'm awful.
Because I'm
Yeah.
a child molester. Exactly. That's what he is.
So the business...
So basically anything that had to do with women, which is why I could see where the Seventh-day Adventist Church might infer that he was possibly taking care of pregnancies that were unwanted.
Yep. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say. He also had a business providing illegal abortions. At least,
so that was confirmed.
yes. And they know this because at least one of which was carried out in the bathroom of their Island Bay home.
Okay.
So during their time in Island Bay, the family was joined by Beatrice Beadle. That's her name. Beatrice Beadle.
Okay.
A friend who had worked for the Coopers in Dunedin. She and Daniel began a sexual relationship in late 1919.
The ladies
'Cause
can't keep their hands off him.
Martha. If he cheated on his wife with you, he gonna cheat on you with someone else. Anyway, I digress. Apparently supposedly, reportedly, allegedly, Martha knew about this and she was consenting to it. But we don't know. In the following year, though, in June, Beatrice Beadle gave birth to a boy conceived from this coupling. The baby was to be adopted by a Christchurch woman, but when she decided that she could not look after the child, Daniel and Beatrice brought him to Wellington, where the family was now living on Adelaide Road. I feel like we have talked about Adelaide Road before. Soon after their return, Daniel claimed to have found a suitable couple who would come to collect the baby. Beatrice never saw her son again.
You got rid of your baby.
Mm-hmm. In March 1921, the family and Beatrice, because now we're just got a husband with his girlfriend, all in the same home. Okay. They moved to a small farm in Newlands, which the Coopers had purchased. And a second Beetle Cooper baby was born in November. Yeah. Daniel also arranged for the adoption of this child.
Quote unquote.
Mm-hmm. Around this time, the Coopers opened an office for their health business in Lambton Quay. Towards the end of 1922, the police became suspicious of the rest care home for 4 women that the Coopers were running in Newlands, and watch was kept on it and the health specialist rooms in town. On December 30th that year, Daniel was arrested for performing an abortion. Okay. It's illegal. 2 days later, he and Martha faced a charge of illegally detaining another child and were held in police custody. On investigation into letters, diaries, and ledgers held in the Lambton Quay office and the Coopers' home provided evidence of 3 other instances of illegally detaining children, including Beatrice's 2 babies by Daniel and of a further 10 abortions performed by Daniel over the previous 12 months. The discovery of a female baby's body on the Coopers' property on January 3rd, 1923, led to them being formally charged with 4 counts of illegally detaining children and 1 count of murder.
Okay.
The abortion charges
because they could never explain where the children went to.
Nope. And think of how much they've moved.
Right.
They have moved so much that they have possibly been burying these children.
Of course they have.
The abortion charges against Daniel were heard in the magistrate's court between January 30th and February 2nd. He was committed for trial in the Supreme Court, but it was decided that the murder case would take precedence. Prior to the start of the murder trial on May 14th, 2 more babies' bodies were found on the Newlands property. So
now we have 3 active murder investigations, charges.
Yes. Yep. So space in the Supreme Court was at a premium as the public who had been lingering on every detail of this case for 5 months. Okay, there was like, this is big news. They are outside the courthouse. I mean, they've got their torches and pitchforks.
This is their O.J. Simpson trial.
Mm-hmm. Daniel faced 4 charges of murder and Martha 3. The charges were to be dealt with separately, with the outcome of the first determining whether the others would proceed. The prosecution initially focused on proving the murder of the child of Margaret Mary McLeod and William Welsh, the only 2 babies whose age and time of disappearance fitted with any of the corpses found on their property.
Right.
As reported by the parents who turned them over to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not talking about advanced forensic science at this point.
No, exactly. The jury heard evidence that in February 2000, nope.
18?
The Wayback
19.
Machine, Charnell. In February 1922, Mary McLeod had visited Daniel at the Lambton Quay office. She was 1 month pregnant. Several months later, Cooper told her that he knew a woman that was in a different town who would be willing to adopt her child and that it would just cost her 50, whatever their money is.
Lire.
Mm-hmm.
Lire.
Yeah, it doesn't say, but that's what I mean previously.
That's potentially $1,000.
So,
these people can't afford to raise their babies. How can they afford to sell them?
I wondered that too. Exactly.
Seems like it'd be the opposite. If you were actually,
right,
if you were really if someone's really brokering your baby, they're going to pay you, and then the person adopting is going to pay them, and that's how they're going to make money. That since people like to say that's what CPS does, that's how it should happen. But instead, they make $35,000 a year paid for by the government.
If CPS got a freaking kickback for removal of children, I wouldn't be doing a podcast where I'm saying you should be a $10 a month Patreon. Fuck's sake.
Yes, she would, because she would never accept that kind of dirty money if it existed.
I wouldn't. That's true. I really, really wouldn't. But
look how lazy I am at legit holding the microphone on my lap because I want to sit. I want to sit back.
I think you're genius, to be honest with you.
Until this thing falls and hits me in the teeth.
and we hear it live and I don't edit it out. That's what's going to happen. So Daniel's like, hey, 50 lire to make the arrangements, bada bing, bada boom. He suggested that she get a Welsh man to pay. Like, let's leave no trail here, okay?
Oh.
And
find you the illegitimate father and blackmail him into paying.
Daniel offered her the use of a cottage on the farm where she could stay for 15 shillings per week until the child was born. Mary agreed and moved out to the farm, escorted by Martha on August 19th. Another pregnant woman was already staying at the cottage. Mary gave birth to a girl on October 12th, and for the next 8 days, the Cooper looked after the mother and the baby. Mary last saw her child on October 20th when the Coopers told her that the couple from Palmerston North had come to collect the baby.
Oh, God, this hurts my heart.
So during the course of the trial with Martha, her lawyer, T.M. Wilford,
great names,
absolutely,
great names,
emphasized that the maltreatment of his client by Daniel over the years was why she went along with it. So in other words, Daniel is an abusive husband, and she had to go through with all of this, or it was her life.
Sure.
Okay. He claimed that since 3 other women had been convinced their babies were going to adoptive parents, Martha could have also believed that the babies were going to adoptive parents. He even suggested that she may have been hypnotized by Cooper, as she was a soulless household drudge without a mind of her own. That is what he said about his own client.
Her husband had a girlfriend literally living with them that he had 2 babies with during their marriage. There's something off here.
I agree.
So it could be potentially beat down, or she's diabolical, in complete agreement with all of this, helping hide it, and doesn't have.
And they were into kinky threesomes.
You got it.
I mean, who knows?
Sure, why not? Weirder things have happened in the 1800s in New Zealand.
For sure. That would be normal.
I mean, it was hidden, but normal.
Yeah, I know.
We don't talk about that.
We don't.
It's like Fight Club.
I would love to do a segment called We Don't Talk About That and just bring up the most awkward shit that we don't talk about. Like, someday, can we talk about how ball sacks just have to stick to legs, and that's got to be so fucking annoying and
I feel
weird.
like We Don't Talk About That as a brain bath episode.
I agree.
And I want audience participation.
Yes. Bring us the things we don't talk about that we should be talking about. Oh, okay. Where was I? Oh, yes, the soulless household drudge without a mind of her own.
Yes, that's where we were. I've been there.
I know, same. I want that on a t-shirt. So this impression contrasted markedly with that of Daniel given by a reporter, who was a small man with dark piercing eyes set far back in his head and a mouth like the seam in a saddlebag.
That is never how I want to be described. Ever.
I gotta say it again. A small man with dark piercing eyes set far back in his head with a mouth like the seam in a saddlebag.
It's my favorite description of a mouth.
Oh my God, the seam. You got the mouth of a seam of a saddlebag, honey.
Mouth like the seam of a saddlebag. He was thin-lipped and serious looking.
And had the mouth of the seam of a saddlebag.
If you want me to flower that up for you like a Bronte sister. Go ahead, Charnell.
The jury's verdict cleared Martha of any guilt in the murders, and the other charges against her were dropped. Whereas Daniel was found guilty and sentenced to death. He was hanged at the Terrace Gaol in Wellington on June 16th, 1923. Shortly before his death, he admitted his guilt and stated that Martha was absolutely innocent of the sin of murder. So there you have it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And maybe it's true.
But
what about his girlfriend?
I don't know. There had been no children between the marriage of Martha and Daniel. Okay. Just the 2 that, he had with his mistress. And she called herself Martha Stewart. She continued, even after all of this, kept her name. She moved to Dunedin in the 1930s. And also under this name, she was described as a spinster, but she married Philip Powell McNaughton, a quarryman in Dunedin on December 21st, 1940. He died in 1943, and by the early 1970s, Martha was living in Christchurch. She died there on April 10th, 1975.
Okay.
She lived a real long life. And that, my friends, is some information about baby farming and 2 very famous baby farming cases from New Zealand.
You know,
Thank you, Rachel, for bringing us to this.
I like it. And if you guys want more of this, there are some more baby farming cases we could bring too.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't look that deep into it that way. I mean, in terms of
I was
trying to stay organized, into what I could find here.
Well, we had a listener recommend, and it was a good one. So,
are you ready for me to continue my brain bathing?
Yes.
From the previous episode, previous bonus episode.
Continue my bath.
Okay.
I'm still covered in bubbles.
We're still
you to get the
bathing.
sponges out.
Let's rewarm the water, sister.
Thank you. This time use the faucet. I can't be taken anywhere. I'm so sorry.
This time use the faucet. Oh, sometimes I just really get a kick out of you. Most of the time, actually.
I'm so glad.
It actually freaks me out when we're being serious and having a serious conversation. It doesn't feel right.
Because
I don't like it.
I have the worst sense of humor ever.
I mean off air, when we're having an actual serious conversation, then one of us has to do something goofy.
That's what I was going to say. So one of us is going to say something to relieve the tension.
Yeah.
It has to happen.
It does. Okay, so these are funny police reports. Okay, that's if you didn't listen to the other episode for whatever reason, you may not know what article I'm referring to. Now, this one was just interesting because this is just posted in the newspaper. I love just random shit that's posted in the news. And I keep saying posted. It's written. Charnell.
It's a headline.
My God.
We post on Facebook. We write newspaper articles.
Oh, 2023 is so confusing.
Art. It's a lost art.
It is. It just says, correction. A headline on an item in the February 5th edition of the Enquirer Bulletin incorrectly stated stolen groceries. It should have read homicide.
Wow.
Those are 2 very different things.
So I venture a guess that somebody went to steal groceries from a store and there was a murder.
And they committed homicide.
But somebody did a real quick briefing of the article and went, oh, somebody went and stole some groceries because they didn't read.
Yes, possibly.
They didn't read through it.
Lazy journalism.
He was fired and they had to make a huge correction.
And that's all it says. There's no other explanation, just period. It stated stolen groceries. It should have read homicide. Period. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, here's this one. This is actually printed in the January 30th, 2014 newspaper in the Verona Press, Verona, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Under police report, it says reports are collected from the log book at the Verona Police Department. And at 4:51 p.m., they had a high school student attempt to touch a police officer while waiting at the high school for a bus, asking the officer, "Do you even lift?"
Oh, teenage boys.
But why did we print that?
Do you even lift?
Why did we print that in the police report? Because the officer was touched? Did he file a police report because he was touched by a high school student that was making fun of his bird arms?
Technically, it's assaulting a police officer and any unwanted touching.
What he assaulted was his ego, because I guarantee he probably had stick-like arms. I resonate with that, okay?
Listen.
I'm stronger than I look,
but I have
long, skinny arms.
There has to be mens rea with an assault. You have to have intended to either commit a battery or to put somebody in fear of an immediate battery or actually battered
Well, he
them.
was scared because the high schooler was probably a big, bad football player, and he was afraid he was going to kick his ass.
He might have been. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be charged either.
But
I just don't know everything.
They put it in quotes.
Even, do you even work out,
bro? Do you even lift?
Do you even lift?
I love
feel like
it.
I don't know why for sure, but I feel like either one of our sons would say something like that.
I was actually going to just say the same thing. The same thing.
Mine wouldn't touch somebody though.
Nope. But mine would absolutely look at him and say,
"Do you even lift, bro?
Do you even lift?"
Yeah, exactly.
Just like he would absolutely say to someone, "Hey, maybe don't skip so many leg days."
Right. I've said that too.
Oh, 100%. I know several men that just do some squats, just a little bit. Just try to even it out.
They're going to fall over at some point. There's no way your center of gravity can change that much.
I agree. Can't make it through a doorway because your shoulders are so broad, but you actually get stuck, and then your little chicken legs are just kicking wildly.
Yeah, it just reminds me like an Alice in Wonderland thing where the bottom part's going to go through the hole, but then he's just going to get stuck like a cork.
Absolutely.
Like a wine cork.
Oh, so this happened in Fullerton, California.
Okay.
And it's printed again in a newspaper. Police are looking for a man who tried to rob a Wendy's while wearing a plastic bag over his head. Police Lieutenant Tom Basham told the Orange County Register that the man pulled up to the drive-thru window, pointed a handgun at the server, and demanded money. The server closed the window and walked away.
Yeah, that's fuck you, man. I don't get paid enough for this. I
For
would
sure.
too.
And so they're like, hey, are you the guy that was wearing a plastic bag in the Wendy's drive-thru? Could you turn yourself in?
Yeah.
Because you were thwarted. That's a hard word to say
Thwarted.
in a microphone.
Love it. I haven't had an opportunity to use that word in a sentence in a very long time.
I mean, I executed it about as well as I would a backflip right now, but I came up with it there. I inserted it. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
I like that they're like, hey, by the way, or any of your friends brag about that lately.
I just can't. Why would you brag about that? A teenager just won, right? You tried to rob him through the drive-thru. He literally pressed shut the door and said, I don't get paid enough for this shit, and walked out. That's exactly what I would do.
I want to read this headline to you. This will be the last one for now. Okay. Maybe, because I just skipped ahead. Maybe it's not the last one. All right.
I saw something funny. Now there's two.
I did. Police. Nude man thought elevator was shower. Drugs not believed to be a factor.
Really?
Are we sure? Could we do a test again?
Yeah. Sounds like K2. I don't know. Maybe. A little meth.
This one is, we're going to end on Karen.
Oh, let's end on Karen.
Or we ought to come up with a better name. Poor Karens. How about a Becky? All right?
Okay.
Because Becky's have had long enough of having beautiful big butts. And Sir Mix-a-Lot has been in love with them. It's time that we bring them down a notch. So this one's a Becky.
Fine. Give us the Becky.
Early Monday morning, April 6th, a Hayfork woman requests to talk with a deputy because her housekeeper is not putting her towels away properly. Megan?
No. Yep. The sense of entitlement. You've hired someone to clean your house and you made a police report about it? That is not the appropriate use for 911.
That means I have rights to file a police report against every one of my children who do not put their shit away or my shit away appropriately.
Absolutely.
Get your husband in here. I have some reports to have filled out.
That's right. Okay. Oh, it's for hire. I mean, call the Better Business Bureau, lady. I don't know what to tell you.
For sure. Like, does she have her own cleaning business? Whatever. Mm-hmm. So there you have it. That is our bonus episode today. And
informative.
Yes, I tried to bring the education.
You do bring the education.
And you brought the laughs.
Oh, God, thanks.
And the boobs,
I do. Well, they're attached.
That's true. It would be hard to go anywhere without them.
Yes. She means the sense of humor.
Yes. All right, I guess we're ending, right?
How do we
end this thing?
You're already Patreon, so keep doing that.
Yeah. So if you could keep that up, that'd be great.
Right, awesome. Because then we can do more research. We've done a ton of research lately too.
We have,
really purchasing of books, and we love it when people send us books too.
They're amazing.
There's a surefire way to get me to cover your case.
Absolutely.
Send Charnell the book.
Provide us with the book. That
Sorry,
works.
we're not that big of assholes. We can research things. We know how.
We do. But we do appreciate it when your generosity is on overload. Truly.
Yeah, and those of you that have given suggestions, trust me, we have not forgot about you. We're just trying to catch up on them.
They're coming.
Absolutely.
And we do sprinkle in interviews too. We have another one coming up that we're recording this Sunday.
Perfect.
So another interview episode.
We're back
with
to our normal recording schedule Sunday. So. Then we screw it up for Labor Day weekend.
Right.
And then after that, the school year hath started.
Yes, it does.
We're busy with children. You won't be going anywhere.
Nope.
I only have one left at my house, and she's too young to be in anything really. So I have a weird break right now.
Well, and
in my life.
I won't be able to do Monday night recordings because they've made JV football in our area on Monday nights.
Yes.
And then I have varsity football every Friday night.
Okay. So if it's not Sunday, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
That's right. So, all right, y'all, now that we have hashed out our schedule and
God,
told you
we
all.
just did that. We should take that out. I'm so sorry to bore you with our schedules. You want to know when my mammogram is, guys?
My next
Meet you there.
Is
Don't forget to get all of your stuff checked out. Until next.
Keep it curious and
keep
stay
listening,
healthy.
please.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.